IMSA heads to the hilly and flowing Laguna Seca for round 4 of the season, and along with it, the first 2-hour and 40-minute race of the year as well. Combine infamous corners such as the corkscrew, with Porsche trying to win their 4th race in a row, alongside the return of the hard-battling GTD Pro cars, and you have the makings for yet another great race. This is everything you need to know about the TireRack.com Monterey Sports Car Championship at Laguna Seca. Now, the long history of racing at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca dates back to about 1957. However, racing in the area dates back even earlier than that. After safety concerns were raised in the area, it was necessary to build a proper racing facility, and hence the birth of Laguna Seca and what we now know as WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca in 1957. They held their first race on November 9th of that year, and the total cost to build the track would be $1.5 million. The track, which is now operated by the Monterey County Parks Department, has hosted various high-profile series such as Trans Am, IndyCar, and MotoGP. And in addition to some of those racing events, they also host other major motorsports events, most notably the Monterey Motorsports Reunion. Now, over the years, this track has undergone some significant changes since it first opened in 1957. There's been track-altering additions, such as the infield portion of this track. We now know this section as turns 3, 4, and 5, but this eliminated a previously very fast and dangerous section of the track. Other safety improvements that the track has undergone include the addition of various gravel runoff areas, as well as just general expansion of runoff areas. There's also been a very fresh round of renovations that the track has undergone, with a new pedestrian bridge going over the front straightaway, and the entire track was resurfaced a couple of years ago. We'll talk about that more in a moment. Today, though, WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca boasts 11 turns and is 2.238 miles, or 3.6 kilometers in length. Easily, though, the corner that this track is known for is the corkscrew, otherwise known as turns 8 and 8A. It features a hard left-right combination that drops 59 feet over the series of turns. That's the equivalent of a 5.5-story drop. And it doesn't stop there, though. When you put turn 8 and turn 9 together, the elevation falls 109 feet, which is just over 10 stories. And let me tell you, this is a very fast and flowing track, and if you make a mistake, it will cost you in a hurry. So with that in mind this weekend, it's really important to note that a full course yellow could happen at virtually any moment. And with it being a shorter sprint race, that could completely flip the race on its head. Over the past 3 years, we've seen 1 full course yellow, 4 full course yellows, and then 1 full course yellow last year. So it's really difficult to pinpoint what kind of a race we're going to see unfold this weekend. On one hand, having fewer classes on the grid because we're missing the LMP2 cars means less traffic and less opportunities for there to be incidents that occur. But on the other hand, with a track like Laguna Seca, a lazy spin off into the gravel could easily have a full course yellow be deployed if that car gets stuck in the gravel. Now, this is just one storyline to watch for in this weekend's race, and I touch on a bunch in a recent video that I did. But if you want a bonus thing to watch for in this year's race, then make sure you're subscribed to the S's newsletter. Before every single race weekend, I send you everything that you need to know to be up to speed for the upcoming race. You can subscribe to that by clicking the link in the show notes or heading to offinthes's.com. This is going to be a slightly condensed general race preview for Laguna Seca, but I do still want to touch on briefly the support series that are going to be present, the weather, and slightly on the BOP. With the support series, we're going to have the Michelin Pilot Challenge present, Lamborghini Super Trofeo, and the Mustang Challenge. Plenty of racing going on across the weekend. I do want to quickly touch on the Michelin Pilot Challenge. There we're going to have 40 cars present, so it's really great to see that the healthy grid numbers are staying intact through these first few races, and they always put on a great show. As for the weather on the weekend, it looks like it's going to be great. Not too warm, not too cold. We have a race day high of 17 degrees Celsius, which is about 63 degrees Fahrenheit. But as always, when we head to Laguna Seca, the thing that we have to watch out for, especially in those morning sessions, is the fog. In previous years, the fog has been so thick that it's caused the delay of some of our morning sessions, and so some of the race sessions could get delayed as a result, but it's just something to keep an eye on throughout the weekend. It's probably not going to affect any of the race sessions, maybe one of the early morning support series races, but just something to think about as the weekend goes along. Briefly touching on BOP, I'm not going to dive into every single class's BOP. I'm actually going to touch on a tweet, or an X post, I guess it's called now, that I posted last week when the BOP first came out. So in that, I noted that in GTP, Acura and the Aston Martin get a bit lighter, BMW get a bit heavier, and Porsche stays the same weight. Overall, pretty minimal changes on the weight side. However, when it comes to car power, there are some changes. Porsche is the only car to lose power under 190 kilometers an hour, and Porsche is also the only car to gain power over 190 kilometers an hour. Aston also has a power increase under 190 kilometers an hour. Other than that, the changes were pretty minimal, but this is big for Porsche. So this stage 1 power got lowered from, I think it was 230 or 240 kilometers an hour that we had at Long Beach in previous races. So with Laguna being a pretty fast and flowing track, the effect could be minimal, but it is going to impact them coming out of a lot of the slower and maybe medium speed corners. Porsche is not going to have the same power as everybody else, so they could struggle a little bit more. It's going to be worthwhile keeping an eye on, especially through qualifying and into the race, if this ends up coming to fruition. As for GTD and GTD Pro, pretty minimal changes, especially when we compare with some of the changes that we saw here in last year. But Lamborghini is going to be 10 kilograms lighter with a slight power decrease. Corvette sees some slight power gains, while Ferrari sees a max stint energy increase. Overall, pretty minimal changes, probably, a net positive for cars like Lamborghini as well as Corvette, but overall, pretty minimal changes for these classes. Let's talk about grid size, and it's going to feature a very healthy 36 cars on the grid this weekend. In GTP, we'll see 11 entries, an increase of 1. There'll be 10 GTD Pro entries, also an increase of 1 from last year. And 15 GTD entries. That's the same as last year. Regardless of which entry and which class you're competing in, though, there's a few keys to victory that I want to touch on for Laguna Seca. The first one I want to touch on is managing your tires. And while Laguna Seca isn't the tire-eating monster that it was a couple years ago, since the repave, it's been much easier on tires. However, it still has many high-speed, very flowing corners, so managing tires in this race is still going to be critical. Speaking of tires and tire changes, you also need to execute on your pit stops. Time and time again this year, we have seen races decided by pit stops. As recently as Long Beach, that race was decided in both classes based off of pit stops. So while this is a 2-hour and 40-minute race, it is longer than what we saw at Long Beach. We're going to see an additional pit stop. It's still very, very important that these teams execute at a very high level if they're going to have a chance to get on the podium or ultimately get that win. And lastly, you need to stay on the track at Laguna Seca. Sure, thanks, Captain Obvious Stu. You obviously have to stay on the track if you want to win the race, but even more so at Laguna Seca than many other tracks. I touched on the gravel traps that are at Laguna Seca. If you find yourself just putting a couple tires off and that gravel sort of sucks you in, then man, that could be race over for you. Weekend done and dusted. If you get stuck in a gravel trap, you're probably losing a couple of laps, and it's going to destroy any opportunity that you have at a solid finish. Last year's winners were able to put all those keys together in the race, and in GTP it was the number 6 Porsche Penske Motorsports 963 of Nick Tandy and Mathieu Jaminet, who completed 119 laps en route to victory. In GTD Pro was the number 77 AO Racing Porsche of Lauren Heinrich and Seb Prio taking the win, while in GTD it was Russell Ward and Philippe Ellis in the number 57 Windward Racing Mercedes. And it's pretty interesting how competitive in the championship the 3 race winners here were last year. Pretty tied into a pretty successful season overall for the team. We'll see if that plays out again this year. As for my picks, though, in GTP, I'm going with the number 31 Whelen Engineering Cadillac. Cadillacs have been strong at this race. Since the GTP cars have been coming here, the 01 Cadillac won in year 1. The 31 finished second in this race last year. And Cadillac has yet to have that breakthrough performance in 2025 that we've been waiting for. I think it comes at Laguna Seca. Give me the 31 for the win. In GTD Pro, this is a tough one. So many of these cars are evenly matched, and honestly, you could probably pick anyone from the GTD Pro class with a reasonable shot to win. But here, give me the 64 Ford Multimatic Motorsports Mustang, Mike Rockenfeller, and Seb Prio. Of course, Brio is a winner here with Rexy last year, and that Ford is looking strong to start the season, so give me the number 64 in GTD Pro. And in GTD, give me the number 12 Vassar Sullivan Lexus. It's such a strong driver lineup. This is a track that the car has been successful at in the past, and they've looked really strong so far this season. Give me the 12. Let's take a look at the championship standings now, presented by P1 Web Development. If you're looking for a custom website, then look no further than P1 Web Development. You can check them out at p1webdevelopment.com, and when you do, let them know that Off in the S's sent you. In GTP, it's number 7 Porsche Penske Motorsports 963 that leads with 1,140 points. That's 123 points ahead of the sister number 6 Porsche. Number 24 BMW's 265 points back, with the number 31 Whelen Engineering Cadillac and the number 60 Acura Meyershank Racing Acura rounding out the top 5. In GTD Pro, it's number 65 Ford Multimatic Motorsports Mustang leading the way with 653 points. That's a 17-point gap over Rexy, who's in second. Really close gaps here in GTD Pro. Number 1 Paul Miller Racing BMW is 25 points back. Number 64 Ford is 36 points back. And rounding out the top 5, the Corvette by Pratt Miller Motorsports number 3 is 39 points off the lead. And then there's GTD, and here it's number 57 Windward Racing Mercedes leading the way with 994 points. That's 91 points ahead of number 12 Vassar Sullivan Lexus, the 27 Heart of Racing Aston Martin, 120 Wright Motorsports Porsche, and number 96 Turner Motorsports BMW round out the top 5. As for the schedule on the weekend, it's a pretty packed one. It gets kicked off on Saturday at 11:45 a.m. Eastern Time with race 1 for the Mustang Challenge. That's followed after it by the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca 120 for the Michelin Pilot Challenge. You can catch that race on Peacock, IMSA TV, or IMSA's YouTube channel. Following that, at 6:10 p.m. Eastern Time, you have qualifying for the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship on IMSA's YouTube, Peacock, and IMSA TV. Rounding out the day, you have race 1 for the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Series. You can catch that on IMSA TV, Peacock, or on IMSA's YouTube channel. Turning the schedule over to Sunday now, at 11:25 a.m. Eastern Time, it's the race 2 for the Mustang Challenge. That's on Peacock, IMSA TV, and IMSA's YouTube channel. Following that up at 12:30 on Peacock, YouTube, and IMSA TV is race 2 for the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Series. And rounding out the weekend is the TireRack.com Monterey Sports Car Championship race for the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. That gets underway at 3 p.m. Eastern Time on NBC, Peacock, IMSA TV, and IMSA's YouTube channel. I'm also going to be doing some watch-alongs this weekend. I'll be doing a qualifying watch-along on Saturday as this video comes out. And then I'll also be live for the entirety of the race on Sunday, so hope to see you drop by. We're in for another great weekend of racing here at Laguna Seca, and as always, there are a ton of storylines for you to watch for. I talk about the 5 storylines that I'll be watching for this weekend at Laguna Seca right here. Huge shout out to all of the channel supporters. If you too want to support the show, you can head to patreon.com/offinthes's or click that join button below. Once again though, thanks for tuning in. I hope everyone has a great race weekend and doesn't go off in the S's.